Let's discuss equation of a straight line. So the standard form of the equation of the straight line is y is equal to mx plus c, right? So this is the standard form of a straight line. And you'll see this equation written in books wherever there would be written an equation of a straight line. So let's first understand what the symbols are. So this m stands for the gradient of the straight line, and this c stands for the y-intercept, where the line crosses the y-axis. What do you mean by y-intercept? Where the line crosses the y-axis, right? The intercept that the line makes with the y-axis. I hope you know the concept of gradient. Otherwise, please, you can have a look at my previous video on gradient so that the concept is absolutely clear. Right. So gradient, as we've already discussed, this is the slope of the line, right? So important point to remember, if a line slopes upwards when you move towards the right, as you move towards the right, if a line slopes upwards, it has a positive gradient, right? And if you move towards the right and the line slopes downwards, it has a negative gradient, right? So the gradient is negative. And please don't forget, the symbol for the gradient is m, right? So there should be absolutely no confusion in that. Let's further discuss this. So for example, if a line has equation y is equal to 2x plus 3. So what sort of line is this? We can see the gradient is positive. The gradient is positive and the y-intercept is also positive, where the line intercepts the y-axis. So if you want to just draw a rough sketch of this line, so that would be, let's label this, the y-intercept is positive. That means the intercept would be above x-axis, right? And the gradient is positive. That means the line will be sloping upwards, right? As you move towards the right, the line will be sloping upwards. Let's take another example. For example, y is equal to minus 2x minus 3. So that means the gradient of the line is negative. So the gradient is negative and the y-intercept is also negative. That means the line intercepts the y-axis below the x-axis. So if you want to draw the sketch of this, so this will be, this is minus 3, this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis, right? So the gradient is negative. That means the shape of the line would be like this. It would be sloping downwards as you move towards the right. So this would be the shape of this line. That means if the line has a negative gradient, it would be, as you go towards the right, it would slope downwards, right? And if the gradient is positive, the line would slope upwards. And please remember that y-intercept, they're really important. You should be very careful in drawing the y-intercept, because the concept of gradient, what is a positive gradient? And if the gradient is negative, what type of line you will get, what will be the direction of the line? This is absolutely clear. Right. Let's look at some of the equations and let's try to draw these lines. So first, y is equal to half x plus c. We can see this is an equation of a straight line. This is in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So we can see the coefficient of y should be 1. Yes, this is 1. Then whatever is the coefficient of x that reflects the gradient, that gives you the gradient, and the gradient is positive, and the constant term gives you the y-intercept. Please remember that the coefficient of y should be 1. You should make y the subject, and then whatever is the coefficient of x, that would be the gradient of the line, and the constant term would reflect the y-intercept, where the line intercepts the y-axis. So this is your y-intercept, right? So I hope this is pretty clear now. Let's sketch this line. So this is your y-axis and this is your x-axis. So gradient is positive. That means it would be sloping upwards when you move towards the right. So, and the y-intercept is 6. So the line would intercept the y-axis right? So it would be above x-axis and sloping upwards. So this will be the direction of the line, right? Because the gradient is positive, it would be sloping upwards, and the y-intercept where the line will cross the y-axis, this is 6. So I hope you're trying to, what I'm trying to say is, let's first understand, the general equation. What do you mean by gradient? What types of gradients are there? And obviously the y-intercepts, right? Coming to this line. So y is equal to minus x plus 3. Once again, whenever you get this question, first thing is please check that is this in the standard form. And once again, what do you mean by standard form? That the coefficient of y should be 1. You should make y the subject, right? Then whatever is the coefficient of x, that would reflect the gradient. That would tell you the gradient of the line. So the coefficient of x is minus 1. So the gradient is negative. So the gradient is negative. That means the slope, the line would be, it would be sloping downwards. And 3 is the y-intercept. So y-intercept is still positive. The line will cut the y-axis, on the positive side, which is above x-axis. So let's sketch this curve. So this is 3, and the line will be sloping downwards because the gradient is negative. I hope this is pretty simple and I'm clear. Let's look at this line. Y plus 2x is equal to 3. So once again, ask yourself this question, is this in the standard form? Let's try to make y the subject so that it's exactly in this form. So when you make y the subject, you shift 2x on the other side. So this would become minus 2x plus 3. Now we can see this is exactly in the standard form. So the coefficient of y is 1. And now whatever is the coefficient of x, that would reflect the gradient of the line. So the gradient is again negative. That means as you move towards the right, the line will be sloping downwards. And this is your y-intercept, right? So this is your y-intercept, plus 3. So that means if you sketch this line, so again, because y-intercept is positive, so it would lie above x-axis. So if the gradient is negative, it would be sloping downwards. So I hope the concept of the gradient and the y-intercept is absolutely clear. Let's look into another question. Find the equation of the line which passes through a point. This point 0,7. So if a line passes through a point, that means the coordinates of that point would fulfill the equation of the line. Because the point lies on the line, so that means that point would fulfill the equation of the line, right? So, and has a gradient of 3, right? So, let's apply the formula. So, we know equation of a line is y is equal to mx plus c. So, we have the gradient. Let's plug in the value of the gradient. So, this will be y is equal to 3x plus c. So, now how would you evaluate the y-intercept? That is the question. So, as we've discussed, this point lies on the line. So, the coordinates of the point would satisfy the equation, right? So, this is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. So, in place of x, we'll plug in the value of the x coordinate, and in y, we'll plug in the y coordinate. So, y is 7 and x coordinate is 0, right? Plus c. So, what is the value of c? Let's evaluate. 0 multiplied by anything is 0. So, c is 7. So, you've got the gradient, you've got the y-intercept, that completes your equation. So, just plug in the value of the gradient and the y-intercept. So, let's see what the final equation will become. So, y is equal to gradient is 3, x and y-intercept is 7. So, the equation of the line which passes through point 0,7 having a gradient of 3 is y is equal to 3x plus 7. I hope this is pretty simple. Let's have a look at a very similar question. So again, find the equation of the line which passes through this point at a gradient of half, right? Having a gradient of half. So again, a line passes through this point. That means this point would satisfy the equation of the line. right? It would fulfill the equation. So again, what is the standard equation of a straight line? Y is equal to mx plus c. We have the gradient, just plug in the value of the gradient, right? We have to evaluate c, the y-intercept. So let's plug in the values of x and y. Because this point lies on the line, that means the coordinates will satisfy this equation. Clarity? So this is your x coordinate and this is your y coordinate. So put 4 in place of x and 3 you plug in y. So this will become 3 is equal to half. X is 4 plus c, right? So what is 4 over 2? Let's simplify this term. So this will become 4 over 2 is 2 plus c. So when you subtract this, c becomes 3 minus 2, which is 1. So c is 1. So what is your equation? That is y is equal to mx plus c. So just plug in the values in m and c. So the gradient is half. You've already given the gradient. And your y-intercept is 1. So this is the equation of a straight line which passes through this point having a gradient of half. I hope this is pretty simple. 1 plus 1 is just understanding the concept of a straight line, understanding what the gradient means, and understanding how to calculate the y-intercept. Let's look into another question. Right, let's have a look at another question. Find the equation of the line which passes through these 2 points, 5, 4 and 6, 7. So once again, the equation of a straight line should be absolutely clear that first thing is we need to find the gradient, the slope of the line. So we are given the coordinates of 2 points on the line, so we can easily calculate the gradient. So what was the formula for the gradient? If you remember, that was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That was rise over run, right? So just plug in the values. So let's say this is 0.2 and this is 0.1. So plug in the values y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the gradient is 3 over 1, which is 3. So the gradient is 3, right? So just once again, plug in the original equation, y is equal to mx plus c. So both the points, they are lying on the same straight line. So both the points would satisfy the equation. The coordinates will fulfill the equation, right? So we can just plug in any of the points. Let's say we take 5, 4 because the coordinates are simple, right? So we'll plug in place of y, we'll plug in 4 and in x, we'll plug in 5. So 4 is equal to gradient is 3 and x is 5 plus c. We are evaluating c. So this is 4 is equal to 15 plus c. So c is what? 4 minus 15, which is minus 11. So c comes out to be minus 11, right? I hope it's pretty simple. We've got the gradient, we've got the value of c. Just simply plug in the original equation. So your answer will be to this part, y is equal to mx plus c, and this is 3x minus 11, right? Because gradient is 3 and y-intercept, the c is minus 11. So simply plug in the values and the equation would be in the standard form. You just need to calculate the gradient and c and simply plug in the values. I hope this is pretty simple. Let's have a look at another example, right? So I'm going to erase this so that I can write it. Right, let's have a look at this. So once again, we are given 2 points on a line. So first thing is first, let's find the gradient. So what is gradient? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? So y2 is minus 1, minus is in the formula, and the y1 is minus 3, right? So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So minus and minus is plus over 6. So this is 2 over 6. So the gradient is 1 over 3. If you simplify, this is 2 times 1 is 2 and 2 times 3 is 6. So the gradient is 1 over 3, right? So once again, the 2 points, they lie on the same straight line. So both the points would satisfy the equation. They will fulfill the equation, right? So let's plug in the values. Y is equal to mx plus c. You can plug in any point. So let's plug in this point. So this is the x coordinate. So in x, we'll plug 3. And in y, we'll plug minus 3. And the gradient is 1 over 3. So minus 3, gradient is 1 over 3, right? And x is 3 plus c. So we can simplify this term. 3 over 3 is 1. So minus 3 is equal to 1 plus c. And you will subtract this. So minus 3 minus 1 is equal to c. So c is minus 4. So you've got the gradient. You've got the value of c. Simply plug in the original equation. So y is equal to mx plus c. So the equation is y is equal to 1 over 3x minus 4. So that is the final answer to this question, that the equation of the line passing through these 2 points is y is equal to 1 over 3x minus 4. I hope it was pretty simple.